Hello, it's Pastor Sam DeChico here from Concord Baptist Church. We're doing a podcast with a couple of our fine missionaries, Brother John Allinson from Mexico and his wife Rebecca, our special guests. They were here Sunday for our missions conference. And so we wanted to get to know them a little bit more. And so we wanted to ask some questions and get a little bit more find out some more about their background, their salvation decisions. So, Brother John, we'll start with you. Tell us about how you got saved.
Thank you, Pastor Chico. I grew up in the Philadelphia area in a Christian home, and my parents took us to church. And I remember when I was around 5-6 years old that after a Wednesday evening kids class, hell had been mentioned. I know that. And I went to my mom and asked her about that, and she took the Bible and explained to me how I could know for sure about going to heaven. And I made a profession of faith. When I was 12, I had some doubts about salvation. So I did reaffirm that decision when I was 12 years old, and then never doubted it since. And thank the Lord for my salvation and for the salvation that He's given me. And then my calling to the ministry.
Sure. Tell us about that.
So in church, I was very active in church, and when I was around 15 years old, I had an opportunity to take a trip with some of the teenagers to visit a Bible college, Crown College in Tennessee. And on that trip, God spoke to me about going into ministry. And then at a camp in my junior year of high school, God spoke to me about being a missionary. And I didn't feel like I was worthy or could do it. And so I told the Lord no. And then a year later, same camp, God persisted. And I started to missions. And then went off to Bible college, and God showed me Mexico and then Mexico City. So I like when I share my testimony that God speaks to us in steps.
Yes.
And so once we are obedient and follow in that step, then we'll get the next step. So sometimes we don't get all of it all in one thing.
Well, the steps of good man are ordered by the Lord.
Yes.
Now, I know you shared today in the sermon that you actually went on a mission trip when you were 12.
Yes. So the church took a missions trip to Mexico for one of the missionaries that was there working, and took about 40 people, took a lot of young people, and we participated in the VBS and so forth. And I didn't know at that point, nor when years later when I was called to missions, that I would even go back to Mexico. But that looking back, I can see exactly what you just said, that how God orders the steps of a man. So, yeah.
Well, I think it's great. Sometimes we don't realize the value of getting our kids involved in ministry, our kids going to missions trips. And, I think it's great for parents to realize and understand that God may be calling their child. And I think some parents don't think that way, though. I don't want my kid going away. I don't want my kid going to Mexico. I don't want my grandkids living away from us, And I fear that sometimes our kids are not really being exposed to the mission field. And
I think a lot of parents wouldn't let their kids go, even with the church group. I mean,
sure, right.
12 years old. Yeah.
That's young. That's young. We've taken several from our church, several trips, right? And usually they're a little bit older kids, but that's great. Now, Rebecca, tell us about your salvation experience.
I also grew up in a Christian home and a church my whole life. Didn't know anything else but church. But it wasn't until I was 13 had I received grace. Even though I knew everything in my mind, I didn't actually take it as mine until I was 13.
Okay. Now, as far as, did you have a defining time when you felt the Lord maybe wanted you to be a missionary or maybe just going full-time service?
Full-time service. I would never felt like I was called to be a missionary. I had to go to a different country. And I actually would say, I'm not doing that. But I knew that I wanted to serve God wherever He wanted to give me. I followed Him by teenagers.
Right.
But then John, and I was willing to do it.
Okay. Now, John, you graduated from Crown College right down in Tennessee. Rebecca, did you have
I went to Bible Institute at the church.
I bought a t-shirt on my house. And which church were you folks out of?
I grew up at Bethel Baptist in Philadelphia.
Okay. And you were with?
I grew up under Pastor Paul Fanena in Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right. Good. Wonderful. So, how'd you guys meet?
Great question. Quite interesting. Visiting churches as a single missionary. Your wife actually said something.
Hey, at our church is single missionary many years ago.
And most churches, everybody's trying to set you up. But my brother actually said, I know this single lady in our church, and she wants to be involved in missions, and so it was kind of like a blind date. So one of the churches in the area every 3 months had an outing for singles, and so I took her, this young lady, on the blind date to this outing. And even though she was a wonderful young lady, I didn't feel any connection. It wasn't there. But that's when I saw her and talked to in group setting. And then about a month later, I had an opportunity they had a second activity. And that's when I kind of started talking to it.
So were you already going to the mission field at that point, or were you on the mission field yet, or on deputation? Deputation. Okay. So you end up getting married, right? And all of a sudden now you're going to become a missionary.
Yes.
Even though you didn't know that, that's what God planned. But when you get married to a guy that's a missionary, kind of, that works out. So you have 3 kids. Well, Rebecca, tell us about your 3 kids.
We have a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, 2 girls, and a boy that's 11.
Okay. And how are they doing on mission field in Mexico?
They were born there, so that's really all they know.
Okay.
This is more foreign to them.
More foreign.
And nice.
Yeah, and I assume they're bilingual.
We are.
Yeah. Great. So, Brother John, what's how many years you been in Mexico now?
We've been in Mexico. This May would be 22 years.
22 years. How long did it take you to learn Spanish?
Well, when I was in Bible college, I went to Peru for 6 months. So when we went to Mexico, I spoke some Spanish, enough to get myself in trouble. But Rebecca did not know pretty much any Spanish. We went for a year of language school. After the year of language school, I would put our fluency about 65-70%. And then maybe the first 2 to 3 years in Mexico City, kind of just, learning the last. And I would say we got to maybe 85-90%. And, and then you still learn, but I would say now we're 95 to 98% fluent.
Yeah. Yep. So, you're in Mexico City, and tell us about how you started your first church. What did you have to do?
So when we were in language school, I had a missionary that my goal was to work with a missionary for 6 months to a year, not just go and start something. And I had a missionary in mind, and God shut that door while we were in language school. So it's kind of like, well, language was going to be over in a couple months, period of 4 or 5 months. And so we heard about another missionary, and we took a trip on a break during language school to go visit this missionary. And during that trip, God just confirmed to go there. And they'd been there for a while, didn't have really many people going to their work, and had some health problems, and could tell that they were probably leaving the field. So we went and worked with them for a period of about 6 months. And they had a building rented, but didn't really have people. And so we actually started a kids club. It's how we started the ministry, really. And then church started growing. And after they left, then we kind of took it on ourselves. So.
And so how many churches have you established already in Mexico?
So over the years, our ministry, we've been able to see 3 churches planted, and Lord willing, at the end of this year, 4th church is in the doors to plant.
So, Rebecca, while the ministry is going on, you have to homeschool kids, right? And how's that going?
It's Calvin. It's a little challenging for me. I'm not really a teacher, but they're learning, and we're doing that.
And that's pretty common for most missionary families. I mean, you're in another country. You're not going to put the kids probably in the public school there, and there's usually no Christian schools around. So, a lot of our missionary moms are homeschooling the kids, and that's an added big responsibility besides ministry. Now, in ministry, are you involved with ladies or music, or what do you do?
I do teach the kids class, and we have a ladies meeting once a month in both of the churches that we're in.
Okay, good. Now, so, Brother John, I know you kind of overseeing a couple churches, right? So do you preach in both at the same time, or what's your schedule?
Yeah, it's not what we planned for sure, but a couple of years ago there was a shift, and we're actually in good transition. The one guy that I had at the first church was going to turn it over to him. Wound up leaving, and it was actually a church split. We lost about 80% of people. So when I took it over, the first year was kind of restoration and growth, and so that was God blessed, and we've seen the church grow back to roughly the level where it was in these 2-3 years, and then we the second work had to try to manage that as well, and so it's a transition at this point. I do a main service in one, and then the people I have on the ministry team there, they do Sunday school and evening service, and then I travel 15 minutes to the other church and then do the morning service there and then the evening service. And then during the week, a midweek service at one church on Tuesday, and midweek service on Thursday for the other work. And I do have some preachers and they help, so I'm not doing everything. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, but besides all that, I know that you mentioned you have the Bible Institute. Tell us a little bit about your Bible Institute.
Yes. So we're linked in with Trinity Baptist College in Atlanta, Georgia. We offer from a 1-year Bible certificate to preparation for ministry, whether it be teachers or the men to preach. And so, yeah, we have on Tuesday evenings and Saturday, they have Institute in the one church and Friday evenings in the other church.
Now, do you get involved in teaching in both of those institutes?
Yeah. And we have worked with other pastors in the area. So I've had some other pastors teach as well. And yes, and I've been on furlough doing teaching through recorded.
Okay.
And Saturday. So,
alrighty. So it keeps you pretty busy then, huh?
Very busy.
Yeah. What challenges do you have in Mexico City? And I was surprised your video today shared that there's more people in Mexico City than New York City, Philadelphia, and
Washington. Yes.
Washington, D.C. So add those 3 cities together and there's more in Mexico City.
Yes.
Now, I know you mentioned a little bit about the cartel, but you've been you haven't had issues of violence or anything like that. But what's kind of the challenges? I know, I know, was it your country where they have different days you can only drive on?
Yeah, one of the biggest issues in Mexico City is the traffic, just the amount of people. It depends on who you talk to, but roughly the metropolitan area would be 30 to 33 million people. Where the one church is, it's over 1 million people in that municipality. So there's just a volume of people, traffic, and it can be frustrating. A 20-minute drive can turn into 2 hours depending. So yeah, you have to fight the traffic and the busyness of the city. And
do they have you can only drive on certain days?
If you have a newer vehicle, no. You have to get inspected every 6 months. If you have an older vehicle, it transitions to 1 day a week you can't drive and 2 Saturdays a month. And then if it's older than that, after I think 15 years, it's 1 day a week and every Saturday you can.
Okay. Good. So, how can we pray for you and your family and your ministries or something specific? I know you mentioned you're in the process of trying to pay off a building. Maybe we could pray about that.
Yes. So, start with family, prayer requests, my wife's health, with MS. And then she's been having this last couple of months, some issues with her sciatic nerve, weakness in the legs, things like that, discomfort at times. And so my wife's health, safety as we travel. I'm going to start traveling more these next couple months. So a lot of driving, so safety. And then, for the ministry, for the churches while we're gone, the leaders that we've been training, and then the new church plant in November, that would be a prayer point. And then, I think another prayer point is, like you said, we purchased the property, and this year, Lord willing, we'll be paying it off. And then, paperwork for permits and all that and start construction. But, yeah, sure.
Now, before we, close our little session here, can you leave us with an email address or a website or some information people want to go on and find out more about the ministry?
Yes. So our ministry is Chief Cities Ministries, based upon Acts 16:12. And you can just look email chiefcities@gmail.com. Very simple to remember. And chiefcities.com.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thank you for being our special guest today. And, thank you for coming and being our conference speaker. And this is a big challenge today. We look forward to the evening service. And thank you once again. We'll be praying that God blesses you in Mexico. Hope you have a great rest of your furlough. You're leaving in July?
Yes, mid-July.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, I know you're not enjoying the cold weather. You and the girls complained about that a little bit. So we'll pray that we have a little bit warmer weather for you also. Okay.
Thank you, Biss, and the director. God bless you. Thanks for being our guest today.